Corine's badass bike. She was a biker girl. So cool. Welcome back to my channel, The Fang Girl. My name is Emily and I talk about life in Singapore, tech in Singapore, and I just enjoy doing interviews with people. So I have Corine here. Hey,
Hi, I'm Corine. I'm Emily's friend, colleague.
Yeah. So I brought Corine here to answer some of my burning questions about the Singaporean generation that is thinking of moving out. You've moved out on your own recently, right? Like, how was that experience for you, and why did you decide to move out in the first place?
Yeah, so to give some context, I moved out this year in July. So I guess it's only been a few months, but never have I once regretted it. It's actually something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. I guess in university you had your like exchange program, and then I also did my internship overseas, and last year I was also staying with my partner abroad. So when I came back last year, it was very hard to adjust having to move back to your family after you got used to like a certain sense of like independence and freedom. And that's when I started talking about like house hunting with my friend who's also thinking of moving out. So this is just my personal experience. It might not apply for everyone, but I was staying with my dad and my two brothers. So I was the only female in the house, and my room is the only place where I can feel like a female, because like the boy stuff would just be all over the living room. I just don't feel like I can just even lounge in the living room and feel inspired. And I've been staying in the same place. So I was staying in Sengkang, which is pretty far from the city center. Like I've been staying there for more than 10 years.
Oh wow, okay.
So yeah, I guess that's my main motivation to move out. It's to kind of live my own life, enjoy my late 20s. And like once I realized that okay, I can afford it, then I made the decision to move out.
Did you have any backlash from your family, or like I think you've mentioned when you were looking for housing, people asked you like, oh, why are you moving out from home? Or like, what did your parents think of that? What was that like?
Yeah, so I think I'm quite lucky in the sense that my dad is pretty chill. Like growing up, he has never given me like curfews, restrictions, that kind of thing. So in a sense, like he gave me the responsibility to kind of live my life. So his mindset was like, okay, you're old enough, you can do whatever you want. You're paying for it yourself anyway. That kind of. But my grandma, naturally being like an old woman, she would come to me and say, why do you want to move out? You don't like staying with your dad, that kind of thing. There are a lot of like people, like just friends, who are also asking me like, oh, you're moving out, isn't it like super expensive? Why don't you save the money and like for your future renovation, or like BTO, which is like built to order flats, government subsidized flats in Singapore. And even when me and my friend were house hunting their property agents, even before we meet, like, cause like usually we text like our like profiles,
like send all your information over.
And then they're like, oh, you guys are Singaporeans. Can I ask why you're moving out? That kind of thing. So at first we were very happy to explain. It was like, oh yeah, we just want to like move closer to the city center, like just for a change in lifestyle, that kind of thing. And then it just kept happening to the point where my friend got really pissed, and she just snapped back at them, and she was like, why like Singaporeans cannot move out, is it? Like why must we have to give a reason, and do you ask this for like everyone, like foreigners, that kind of thing? But in a sense, I do get the curiosity, because for expats like yourself, you don't have a choice. If you don't rent, you don't have a place. But then for us, like kind of like a luxury.
It happened to my housemate as well, who's also a local Singaporean, and she, I mean, the thing is, I think those who are like in their late 20s or 30s, most of us are like making good money. We want to have a little bit of like independence. It's not that we don't want to live with our parents per se. It's not like that's the root thing, but maybe it's more they want to experience life outside, like, you know, learning how to pay for bills and do groceries and kind of see your friends whenever you want without a curfew.
True, because like when I was at home, sometimes when small things happen, electricity problems or like groceries, like I would go to my dad. I was like, can you help me fix this? Oh, can you help me buy this? Like, or like food, basically some even like laundry. I'm like, hey, help me, that kind of thing. So at home, you are living a very sheltered life, and your parents are very used to giving to you. So I think beyond a certain age, if you continue to stay with your family, you are kind of trapped in a sense of like being children forever. To some people, they like that. Like some friends were like, oh, why do I want to move out? I have everything at home. I don't have to like pay extra. But for me, the idea of like taking responsibility for my own shit. Oh, sorry. For my own.
we do cuss on this channel.
For my own shit. It is hard at first, but after a while, you realize that hey, I can do this. I can do everything. I'm adulting in a sense, and it made me feel confident and rely less on others for help. Things you can solve yourself, you solve. When you have to ask for help, then you do ask for it, and it's okay.
And I think ultimately parents just want to make sure that their kids are okay, and so like if you can take care of yourself, like that should make them happy. Right. This topic has been pretty hot because during COVID, a lot of young Singaporeans decided to move out. And I personally feel that there was a lot of backlash from older generations about like the whole concept of like filial piety, which it's not, you know, these children aren't moving out because they don't want to be filial, it's just that they want to live out on their own. But like, what are your thoughts on that? Because there's a lot of noise on social media about like, why are you moving out? Like, you should be like spending time with your family.
Or like, why are you paying rent when you can give your parents this money and allowance, that kind of thing. I guess to each their own. Every family is different. I can't say for all the families, but right now at my age, I also, more and more friends are moving out actually. So I have a friend who moved out at first with her friend, and now she's renting a place with her boyfriend. And we were talking about this as well, and she was saying actually moving out made her relationship with her family even better, and it was quite surprising to hear. Like before that, I wasn't. I was like, oh, why? Like, and it's like, cause like before that, you were so used to seeing them every day, you kind of take them for granted.
Yeah, that's true.
And every day, just see, you don't even like maybe say hi, goodbye. But then now she will go back maybe once every other week for family dinners and stuff like that. And then every time she goes back, she says, oh, I feel like my parents are happier to see me, and I'm happier to see them. So you kind of have like deeper conversations. And as cliche as it may sound, absence does make the heart fonder. It makes you appreciate the things that you don't have more. So when you do go back and visit, I think it helps with the connection. So now I also go back once every other week. My grandma would cook. It's not like you're abandoning them, but you just have to let them understand this is for your own growth, like personal growth, independence. You can't let them coddle you forever. For some families, it will take time. But once they see like you are responsible for your own things, you really want this, I think ultimately they will let you kind of like chase your dream in that sense.
And it's fascinating for me because my dad is kind of like your dad. He's super chill. He was like, when you're 18, you're on your own. He literally was like, you're out. I do understand why parents feel a certain way about having their children leave, especially in Singapore, because it's not like you're moving from a massive country from like point A to point B. It's the fact that, you know, Singapore is a small country, and it's like, why don't you just stay at home? But again, I understand what it's like to want to move out and just try things on your own, and you just you definitely grow. I think it's about growth. It's not about not being filial, it's about personal growth and coming into like adulthood.
Actually, in fact, in like comparison to like my foreign friends, I already feel like I'm a late bloomer. I only moved out at 27, whereas like you guys after college,
you're like 18, get out of the house.
And like it's so normal to rent. Maybe a few years back, I do feel like my foreign friends, like expat friends, have like so much more like street smart than me, and I wouldn't have gotten there myself if I didn't move out. I grew up here. You kind of like get stuck in a certain cage. I sometimes also question myself, oh no, like why am I not like getting married or like buying flats like my friends do? Like they already own a house, but I'm still renting. But everyone moves at different pace. I admit, I said I acknowledge that I won't get married anytime soon, and I don't want to stay with my family until I'm 35 to buy a flat. And renting is the best option for me.
That's good. Each to their own. It's really just about personal preference and like what accommodates you in that situation. I mean, we're the same age, and it's also like like I thought I had a timeline, I had a checklist, and I completely did not have that. So for those listening, you know, you're probably in the same boat as us. So
Before we move on to the next question, I want to thank Cove for partnering on this video. We got the chance to tour a new property in Bukit Timah with Cove Co-Living. They're a property company that has move-in ready rooms, studios, and private apartments in Singapore.
kind of just go back to like the hunting for finding an apartment and whatnot. And you've explored this co-living space with me. Like, so Corine just did another video with me. I'll link it in the captions below. We did a tour of this like beautiful space with Cove. What are your thoughts on co-living? And was that like an option that you wish you had considered?
Honestly, my house hunting process took quite a while.
Okay.
We started in January this year and we only moved out in July. We are not in a rush since it's not like we're homeless, we are still staying with our families. There isn't like a rush to like, oh my gosh, I need to keep paying for hotel until I find a place. So we did take our time to start. Like my friend and I, we were two females looking either to rent like a 2-bedroom apartment. We need to have our own rooms, or take over 2 rooms in a 3-bedroom apartment. So when we first started hunting, our budget wasn't very high, and we don't want it to be too high since it's our first year. So just to give some numbers, we don't want to pay like more than 1,000-ish per month. But then when we went on Property Guru, we realized that hey, like that budget is even too low for like a decent 2-bedroom apartment. And then we explored like co-living spaces actually, and I was very drawn to it because it already came nicely furnished. Like you don't have to worry about anything, because like setting up Wi-Fi, setting up like aircon servicing every 3 months, buying furniture, it's a lot of work. And for me personally, one of my requirements is to move into a place that is fully furnished. If it's like just like a 1-year experiment for me, I don't want to spend so much money buying furniture and then having to like dispose of them or sell them. It's a lot of like money and time wasted. So I think Cove, I would say my first choice, because the rooms are much more affordably priced compared to Hamlet and Figment.
And there's more. I find that they have more options as well in different neighborhoods. So it's not just very like downtown central.
I also like the idea of like meeting different people, trying to expand like my social circles, because sometimes I know why it's quite hard, especially in COVID times when you can't like go out and socialize. The reason why we didn't end up choosing co-living space is because ultimately I had to balance like expectations and preferences with my friend. So she doesn't want to have like more than 3 people living in the same apartment. Like she feels like it will be too much. And most co-living spaces have about 4 to 5 or 5 or 6 people.
So I think when I moved, because I used Cove when I first came here, I live with 2 other people. So I think it depends on like the unit itself.
So then we joined Facebook groups. So there are actually a lot of like Facebook groups like lease takeovers and stuff like that, where sometimes you can find very good deals that are not like publicized on like Property Guru, stuff like that. And eventually we found our current place. So we took over 2 common rooms in a 3-bedroom apartment, and I guess it worked out somehow.
No, that's good. That's a very like successful story that happened. I definitely think that you guys took the time to think thoroughly about like what you wanted, and you had more higher expectations of the property you wanted to live in. I think Cove is great for people who are just like, I want something short term, or I want a trial period. A trial period of living out on your own, or someone who just needs a place to live and doesn't want to live in a hotel every single day.
I know. So like, let's say if I'm moving to like another city, I think this would be a great option to just stay here for 3 months, not worry about, oh my God, I have to find a place in 2 weeks and then make the wrong decision, and you have to end up sticking to the wrong decision for a year. So
I feel like I'm getting older because I don't want to move as much. So like when I'm younger, I was like, oh, I can do hostel. I can bounce from hostel like 2-3 days and move around or whatever. And now that I'm older, I'm like, if I'm working remote or I become nomadic, I do want to do like slow traveling, and I want to stay in one area for like 2 to 3 months at Cove, and then move on to a new place. So I think it's great for people who think that way. You also mentioned that you had friends who moved out and developed street smarts, right? So there are a lot of challenges that happen when you do move out on your own. What were the challenges that you faced personally, and like what advice would you give to people moving into a new space?
I think the first challenge is definitely doing your research and knowing what you want. Because sometimes when you just jump into the house hunting process without knowing what you want, you end up spending a lot of time visiting places that you don't even like, and it's actually very tiring and time consuming. So I think having down a list of places, like it has to be close to an MRT, it has to be within 30 minutes to work, that kind of thing. And then if you're moving with a friend, then there needs to be maybe some compromise or like give and take. So I think that's the first most important part, and it can be quite fun. I guess that was the more fun part already.
Okay,
you know. And then when you actually go to house viewing, I went in actually without knowing what to look out for. So sometimes I would go to the viewing and then afterwards like, oh my gosh, I didn't even check if there are like ceiling lights. So some places don't really have, or like look out for like obvious signs like wear and tear. Like I don't know, I don't really, even now I'm not confident. Like some people, they can just go and say, oh yeah, this place looks like nicely renovated, but actually they're hiding something, that kind of thing. Or like what to ask like the current tenants, like your neighbors, construction, look out for
construction.
And visiting the place at different times of the day, because sometimes it may look very bright at night because of the lights, but maybe in the day it doesn't get a lot of like natural light. But there are a lot of YouTube videos to kind of like help you through that. So that's one part. And when you actually finalize a place, then I think it comes down to like negotiating, which is also kind of like a street smart skill to have, but I'm not very good at it, unfortunately.
Did you negotiate in person or on WhatsApp?
I prefer to negotiate in person, because like WhatsApp, I just feel like property agents can be like, no negotiation. But then in person, if the landlord is there as well, it's even better. So maybe you can say like, oh, actually I don't need the TV. If you take the TV away, can you like cut the rent by 100 or 200, that kind of thing. If I maybe sign like a longer lease, can you like bring it down even more? That is if you know what you want. And sometimes it's very effective. And think like reading the clause, like the
paper, you have to read the clause.
And you have to like read every single line. It's so long. It's true, because sometimes they might add like sneaky little things, so you really have to look out for. Sometimes you don't know, oh, you actually have to like dry clean the curtains, but maybe you don't want that. It's like, can you take down the curtains and I buy my own like IKEA curtains that can be machine washed. So it's up to then the landlord to like decide if this is worth it, and maybe you can actually even save some money. And then for me, luckily my younger brother is a property agent, so
amazing.
I kind of just sent, can you help me check?
If you're interested in living with Cove, you can use my code, which is CovexEmily. You basically get $200 off your first month's rent, and the condition is that you did not live with Cove before. Check it out, I have it in the captions below. Other than that, Corine, thank you so much for being on my channel.
Thanks for inviting me. It's my first time taking part in someone else's vlog.
Bye!
I'm here with Corine. Corine, say hi! Oh my god, they're so cute!